The shackles were colder than anything Marcus Vale had ever experienced, and he'd spent 3 years surveying the Outer Rim worlds. These weren't ordinary restraints, they were living ice. Growing from the crystalline walls of his cell and wrapping around his wrists with an almost sentient malevolence. Each movement sent fresh waves of cold stabbing through his bones. He'd been foolish to come here alone. The energy signatures detected from orbit had been too intriguing to resist. And now, he was paying the price for his curiosity. The cell door shimmered and dissolved, revealing a figure that made Marcus's breath catch a knot from the cold. She was tall and ethereal, her skin the pale blue of glacier ice, marked with silvery patterns that seemed to shift in the dim light. Her hair cascaded down her back like a frozen waterfall, each strand catching the light with prismatic brilliance. She wore armor that appeared carved from a single piece of sapphire ice, form-fitting yet regal. Behind her prowled something that could only be described as a dragon, though unlike any from Earth's legends. Its body was translucent ice, given shape and purpose, with eyes that burned like blue stars. Frost crystals formed in the air around it with each breath. "You are the human who violated our airspace," she said, her voice carrying the crisp clarity of breaking ice. "I am Princess Seraven, sovereign of Cryo 7. This is Glacius, my companion since childhood." She gestured elegantly to the ice dragon. "I ask you now, why aren't you trembling, human? One word from me, and my pet will devour you." Marcus met her gaze steadily, ignoring how his heart hammered against his ribs. "Trembling seems like a waste of energy. I'd rather save it for finding a way out of here." Seraven's luminous silver eyes widened slightly. In all her years, no prisoner had ever responded with such brazen calm. Most begged or cowered. This human did neither. "You should be terrified, should I?" Marcus shifted, the ice shackles scraping against his skin. "Fear won't help me right now. Besides, if you wanted me dead, I wouldn't have woken up in this cell." Smile ghosted across her lips, dangerous and intrigued. "Perceptive. You're correct, of course. I have questions, and you will answer them." She moved closer, each step deliberate and fluid. "What is Earth's interest in our world?" "Scientific curiosity," Marcus replied, which was partly true. "Your planet emits energy patterns we've never seen before. I'm a xenarchaeologist. Ancient civilizations are my specialty. A scholar." Seraven circled him slowly, her armor chiming softly like distant bells. "Not a warrior or spy. Interesting." Glacius followed her movements, keeping its burning gaze fixed on Marcus. "And yet you carry weapons. Precautions?" "Your world isn't exactly welcoming to visitors. We do not welcome invaders," she corrected sharply. "For millennia, Cryo 7 has remained isolated. We prefer it that way." Marcus watched her circle him, noting how the patterns on her skin pulsed faintly with each breath. "Then why haven't you killed me yet?" "Isolation would be easier to maintain without witnesses." Seraven stopped directly before him, so close he could see the crystalline structure of her irises like snowflakes preserved in silver. "Because you intrigued me, Marcus Vale." She'd clearly accessed his ship's records. Most outsiders who discover our world come seeking resources to exploit or territory to claim. You came alone, in a research vessel, with equipment designed for archaeological surveys, not conquest. "I told you, I know what you told me," she interrupted. "What I want to know is what you're not telling me." Her hand rose, and Marcus tensed, but she only touched a finger to his temple. Her skin was cool, but not painfully cold. "My people can read surface thoughts with contact. Shall I discover your secrets this way?" "You could try," Marcus said quietly. "But I've been trained in mental discipline. You'd find it frustrating." Her eyes flashed with something that might have been respect. "You continue to surprise me. No fear, no pleading, no deception in your voice." She withdrew her hand. "Very well. I'll offer you a choice. Answer my questions willingly, or I extract the information through less pleasant means." "It's not much of a choice. It's more than most prisoners receive." Seraven turned away, her hair catching the light like spun diamonds. Glacius rest mode. The ice dragon settled onto the floor, its form becoming nearly transparent as it entered a dormant state. Only its eyes remained bright, watching Marcus with unblinking vigilance. "Walk with me," Seravan commanded, and the shackles dissolved from Marcus's wrists. He rubbed the circulation back into his hands, noting that she'd left him free despite her companion's presence. Either she was supremely confident in her ability to recapture him, or this was a test. He followed her from the cell into corridors that took his breath away. The entire structure appeared grown rather than built, organic curves of ice and crystal that glowed with internal light. Through transparent sections of wall, he glimpsed the world outside denseless expanses of ice fields, mountains of frozen crystal, and auroras that danced across a violet sky. "Beautiful," he murmured. "You appreciate beauty even in captivity." Seravan glanced back at him. Most would only see a prison. People miss the extraordinary by focusing on their circumstances instead of their surroundings. Entered a vast chamber, dominated by a floating sphere of crystalline energy. It pulsed rhythmically, casting shifting shadows across the ice walls. Marcus couldn't help but move closer, his scholarly instincts overwhelming caution. "Careful," Seravan warned. "The heart of Cryos is not for mortal touch." "Is that what's generating the energy signatures?" Marcus circled the sphere, his mind racing. The resonance patterns suggest it's not just a power source, it's alive somehow. Seravan's expression shifted to genuine surprise. "You can sense that? Even my people require years of training to perceive the heart's consciousness." "I've spent my career studying ancient technologies," Marcus replied, unable to tear his eyes from the pulsing sphere. "Many civilizations achieved technological singularity by merging their consciousness with their infrastructure. Is this something similar?" For a long moment, Seravan was silent. When she spoke, her voice carried a new note of respect. "The heart is the collective consciousness of our ancestors, preserved and protected. It sustains our world, powers our civilization, and guides our future. And it's dying." Marcus turned to her sharply. "What?" "For the past cycle, the heart has been dimming. Our scholars cannot determine the cause, and we lack the knowledge to repair it."
Owls?
Her composure cracked slightly, revealing genuine fear beneath her regal exterior. "If it fails, Cryo 7 will become a lifeless ball of ice within weeks." Understanding dawned. "That's why you kept me alive. You think I might help? Your species has a reputation for unorthodox problem-solving," Seravan admitted, "and you recognized the heart's nature within moments of seeing it. Perhaps an outside perspective is what we need. Help us save our world, Marcus Vale, and I will grant you freedom and safe passage home. And if I refuse," her expression hardened, "then you remain here as the world freezes around you." "Ach!" Marcus looked back at the pulsing heart, then at the princess whose entire world hung in the balance. Some choices, he realized, weren't really choices at all. "I'll need access to your historical records," he said, "and complete honesty about what you've already tried." Seravan's lips curved into a genuine smile for the first time, radiant and warm despite her icy nature. "Then we have an accord, scholar." Marcus had been given quarters that were surprisingly comfortable despite being made entirely of ice. The bed somehow radiated gentle warmth, and the walls could be made transparent or opaque with a touch. He'd spent the first night studying the historical records Seravan had provided, his mind racing with possibilities and questions. Now, 3 days into his work, he stood before the heart of Cryos with the princess at his side. They'd fallen into an easy working rhythm, though the tension between them had shifted from captor and captive to something far more complicated. "The degradation patterns don't make sense," Marcus said, gesturing at the holographic displays floating around them. "Energy systems fail, predictably cascade failures, entropy decay, resource depletion. But the heart's dimming is irregular. Sometimes it stabilizes for hours, other times it drops precipitously." Seravan studied the data with furrowed brows, her silver eyes reflecting the shifting lights. She'd abandoned her armor for simpler attire, a flowing gown of ice silk that somehow made her seem more formidable, not less. "Our scholars suggested external interference, but we've detected no foreign energy signatures." "What about internal interference?" Marcus pulled up another display. "These fluctuations correlate with specific times of day. When does your high regent hold his daily meditations, Thalric? Sarvin's expression clouded. He served my family for generations. Can't possibly suggest I'm not suggesting anything yet, Marcus said gently. I'm following the data. When does he meditate? Sarvin checked her records, and Marcus watched her face pale, an impressive feat given her already glacial complexion. The timing matches perfectly. It could be coincidence. You don't believe that any more than I do. She turned away, her shoulders tense. Thalric helped raise me after my father's death, taught me statecraft, diplomacy, the responsibilities of rule. Marcus moved closer, drawn by the vulnerability in her voice, which makes the possibility of his betrayal that much worse. She spun to face him, and he was startled to see moisture glistening in her eyes' tears that froze into tiny diamonds on her cheeks. If you're right, if someone I trust is destroying my world. Her voice broke. Without thinking, Marcus reached up and brushed away one of the crystalline tears. It was cold against his fingers, but Sarvin's sharp intake of breath was warm. We'll figure this out, he said quietly. Together. For a long moment, he stood frozen on apt description for anything on Cryo 7. Then Sarvin placed her hand over his, where it still rested against her cheek. You're warm, she whispered. I'd forgotten what warmth felt like. Your world is cold, but you're not, Marcus replied. Care deeply about your people. That's not cold, that's passionate. My people would disagree. They call me the Frost Queen, beautiful, but untouchable. Her smile was bitter. Even Ambassador Rin, my oldest friend, maintains formal distance now that I've taken the throne. Then they don't know you like I'm beginning to. Sarvin's eyes searched his face. We've known each other mere days, Marcus Vale. How can you claim to know me?
What?
I've watched you work yourself to exhaustion trying to save your world. I've seen you question your most trusted advisor rather than blindly accepting tradition. I've witnessed your kindness to the servants who maintain these halls. He smiled. And I've noticed how you always check on Glacius before you sleep, even though he's perfectly capable of caring for himself. A genuine laugh escaped her, a sound like wind chimes. No, you're observant for a scholar who should be focused on ancient artifacts. You're far more interesting than any artifact. The air between them seemed to crystallize with possibility. Sarvin's hand slid from his to rest against his chest. This is unwise, she murmured. You're leaving once we solve this crisis. And I am bound to Cryo 7 until my duty is fulfilled. I know. Marcus covered her hand with his own. Doesn't make it any less true. Before either could act on the moment, a chime echoed through the chamber. Sarvin stepped back, composure sliding over her features like a mask. Enter. A woman in functional ice-forged armor entered. Warden Kelsa, responsible for the fortress security. Her frost-white hair was bound in practical braids, and her cyan eyes were sharp with intelligence. Your Highness, forgive the interruption. High Regent Thalric requests an audience. Sarvin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Does he now? How convenient, given our recent discoveries. Kelsa's eyebrows rose fractionally. Actually, should I deny him entry? No. Sarvin straightened. Every inch the sovereign. Send him in, and Kelsa, remain nearby. Understanding flickered in the warden's eyes. As you command. Thalric entered moments later, his form stooped with age, but his ice-blue skin still vibrant with power. He wore the elaborate robes of his office, marked with symbols of service and wisdom. His eyes, pale as winter moons, immediately fixed on Marcus with undisguised disapproval. Your Highness, he said, bowing deeply to Sarvin while ignoring Marcus entirely. I've heard disturbing reports that you continue to work with this outsider. Surely our own scholars have made no progress in addressing the heart's decline? Sarvin interrupted smoothly. Whereas Marcus has identified several promising avenues of investigation. Thalric's expression soured further. It is unseemly for our princess to spend such time alone with an alien male. The court whispers. Let them whisper, Sarvin said coldly. I am more concerned with preventing our extinction than with court gossip. Of course, Your Highness. Thalric's tone dripped with condescension. But perhaps I might assist with the research? A meditative connection to the heart is deeper than most. Tell me, Thalric, Marcus interjected, earning a glare from the regent. These meditations of yours, do you perform them at dawn and dusk? The regent's eyes narrowed. I do. The traditional times for communion with our ancestors. Why do you ask? Simple curiosity, Marcus replied, though his eyes met Saravin's meaningfully. The heart's fluctuations show interesting patterns around those times. The heart responds to proper reverence, Thalric said stiffly, as it has for millennia. Perhaps these fluctuations you speak of are simply the natural ebb and flow that an outsider wouldn't understand. Saravin moved to stand beside Marcus, a subtle but clear statement. Marcus understands more than you might think, old friend. He's proven himself invaluable to our investigation. Something dangerous flashed in Thalric's pale eyes. Invaluable, Your Highness. You sound quite fond of this human. My feelings are irrelevant to his expertise, Saravin said, though Marcus noticed the faint flush spreading across her cheeks, her skin shifting to a deeper blue. Now, was there something specific you needed, or did you simply wish to express your disapproval? Thalric's jaw clenched. I came to remind you of your duty, Princess, your mother. Queen Miralyn sacrificed everything to protect Cryo 7 from outside influence. To see you entertaining an alien in our most sacred space? My mother, Saravin, cut him off, her voice dropping to a dangerous temperature. Taught me to value competence over tradition, to seek truth over comfort, and to never let fear prevent necessary change. She stepped forward. You've served my family well, Thalric. Don't make me question that service now. The threat hung in the air like frost. Thalric bowed stiffly. As your highness wishes, I shall leave you to your research. His gaze swept over Marcus with barely concealed contempt before he departed. Once the door sealed behind him, Saravin sagged slightly. That went poorly. He's afraid, Marcus observed. The question is whether he fears losing influence or being discovered. Kelsa reappeared from her post. Your Highness, with your permission, I'd like to place discreet monitoring on the High Regent's chambers. Saravin hesitated. He served my family since before my birth, Kelsa, which makes a potential betrayal that much more devastating, the warden replied gently. Better to prove his innocence than to remain ignorant of his guilt. After a long moment, Saravin nodded. Do it, but carefully. If we're wrong, then no harm done, Kelsa finished. And if we're right, you'll have saved your world. She bowed and departed, alone again. Saravin moved to the chamber's viewing wall, gazing out at the crystalline landscape. Marcus joined her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. This feels like betrayal, she said quietly. Investigating someone I've trusted all my life. Leadership often requires painful choices, Marcus replied. That's what makes you a good ruler, you're willing to make them. She turned to him, and the vulnerability in her eyes made his chest ache. What if I'm wrong about him? What if I'm wrong about everything? You're not wrong about wanting to save your people. Everything else we'll figure out together. Together, she echoed. Such a strange concept. I've ruled alone since my mother's passing. You don't have to be alone anymore. Marcus took her hand, marveling at how her cool skin no longer felt cold but simply different. Not while I'm here, and when you leave. The question was barely a whisper. Marcus had no answer for that. Instead, he lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. The gesture seemed to surprise her, her eyes widening. I've never been kissed before, she admitted. Not properly. My people we don't express affection that way. How do you express it? In answer, Saravin placed both hands on either side of his face. Her skin tingled where it touched him. Not unpleasant, but electric. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. Suddenly, Marcus felt a rush of emotion, not his own, but hers. Wonder, fear, longing, hope, all swirling together in a torrent of feeling. When she pulled back, they were both breathing hard. She whispered, "Is how my people share connection." That was incredible, Marcus managed. But I'd still like to show you the human way if you'll let me. Her lips curved into a shy smile, so different from her usual regal composure. I would like that. Marcus leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. When their lips met, he felt her sharp intake of breath, felt her hands tighten on his shoulders. The kiss was gentle, exploratory, and when they parted, Sveravin's eyes were glowing with an inner light he'd never seen before. "Oh," she breathed. "That's wonderful," Marcus smiled. "Worth adding to your cultural repertoire?" "Definitely." She kissed him again, more confidently this time, her arms sliding around his neck. They might have stayed that way indefinitely if Glacius hadn't chosen that moment to materialize in the chamber with a sound like breaking icicles. The ice dragon regarded them both with what Marcus could only interpret as amusement before settling near the heart with a rumbling purr. Seravin laughed. The sound free and joyful. I think he approves. "Good to know I won't be dragon food," Marcus said, earning another laugh. But as they returned to studying the heart's patterns, both knew that their growing feelings complicated an already difficult situation. Whatever was happening to Cryo 7, whatever Thalric's role might be, they would face it together. For now, that would have to be enough.